Welcome back to Sunday Brunch Live. We're joined by Professor Brian Cox. We've had all the exciting science, flat Earth and time travel. Now let's move on to reality. You're going on tour.
Yeah, big shows next year in February in the UK, and then we're off all around the world, America and Australia and New Zealand and the far Arctic, North, Scandinavia, and then back to the UK again with an O2 gig. One of the last gigs is at the O2.
Yeah.
But it's cosmology. And the idea behind the shows was to... We were talking, actually, in the break about our place. You know, what does it mean to be human? And that's a question I think we all ask. You know, what is our place in the universe? What do I make of this little life that I lead? The point is that science gives you a framework within which to start asking those questions. So, for example, you know, how we are physically insignificant, like, obviously. I mean, the Earth is one planet around one star amongst 200 billion stars in the Milky Way galaxy itself. One galaxy amongst 2 trillion galaxies in the part of the universe we can see, and we're pretty sure the universe extends beyond that and could be infinite. So it is undoubtedly true that we're physically insignificant. And we also live a finite life. You know, we're not here for very long.
This is the conversation. Yeah, go on.
Yeah, well, but in understanding that, what does that tell you? That the great Richard Feynman, we talked about famous physicists earlier, Richard Feynman, Nobel Prize-winning physicist, said we are atoms that can contemplate atoms. So a human being is, as far as we know, a physical structure. It's a dust, basically. Atoms from the Big Bang have come together to form these things, us, which bring meaning to this little corner of the universe because we think. And so I think in realising that, when you put the science together, and you see that, you know, again, we're part of an unbroken chain of life that stretches back 4 billion years on planet Earth. That all those things bring you to the view, I think, that we are it is the remarkably good fortune that we have to live these little lives.
So when you do the live shows, how do you actually ever come out remotely on time? Because this is what you do.
I try. I mean, there's some structure to it because we've got these huge screens and images of the cosmos. You know, I think it's 28-metre wide LED screens and things. I've got graphics that I commissioned from the company that did Interstellar. So we've got a black hole, about a 10-metre wide black hole simulated on the stage. But ultimately, the point is to show the size and scale and beauty of the universe. But then really bring it back to what does it mean? What are we supposed to think when you go out of that show? I would like everyone to just think a little bit more about how fortunate they are to exist at all.
When we first met, you was on Something for the Weekend in our previous life.
Previous life, yeah.
And at the time you just started doing TV shows, you weren't huge, and we got people to text questions in and stuff. Yeah. It became huge. We were like going, wow, this guy's really exciting. Was that the birth of science in not the show, but was that the time where everyone started realising people were interested in science again?
I think it comes around. I mean, I was inspired by Carl Sagan, who, so back in 1979, his series Cosmos. And again, because of this, he didn't just present astronomy. He tried to connect it to us and how we feel about the universe, but also how we behave on the planet. I mean, you see, science gives you perspective. Ms. Sagan said astronomy is a humbling and character-building experience because it tells you, yes, we live on a mote of dust, but it might be a very rare mote of dust. And that's what I found powerful about Sagan's show. So I think it comes in waves. Then you go away for 10 years and everyone talks about football or whatever.
Yeah.
But then it comes back again.
But you flippantly just said a minute ago, life is finite. And a lot of the world doesn't believe that.
No, I mean, I think that as far as people have different opinions, obviously, but I think that the key point is that a big part of human existence, a big part of our lives are spent worrying about how short our life is. And I think what science tells you is that it's the most remarkable thing to have, a life, that maybe you should focus on that small little window of time on the scale of the universe where you can sit there and look at it and think, this is what a beautiful place this is. That's what I think.
But that's a side that is one of the things that you bring it to life. That, you know, it's not just about kind of the if you like, the theory of science, but that implication it has on us as a human race and makes it human. It humanises science.
I think science is a reaction to nature in the same way that art and music and everything else that we do, really. It's a human reaction. It's curiosity. So, you know, why is the sky blue? And that soon, or why the leaves green, that soon leads to why is there a universe? You know, why? And actually the remarkable thing is that modern cosmology, the study of the universe, has told us in some, not quite why there's a universe, but how the universe evolved from 13.8 billion years ago, when it was very hot and very dense, at this thing we call the Big Bang, all the way through. And we have a pretty good understanding of that. And so but science was led to that. I think it's really important that science didn't set out to do that. You don't set out to answer the big questions, but just by being curious about the intricacies of nature, you're sometimes led to a really quite profound understanding of what we're doing here.
Talking about the big questions, we've got 3 big issues in the world at the moment, potentially AI, nuclear war as well, and climate change. Last time you came on, we ended up nattering for ages afterwards, but about global politics.
Yeah.
Climate change, how real is that? And how frustrated are you that people are still doing climate change denying?
There's 2 bits here. There's the measurements. What climate is, by the way, climate science is the study of the probability of weather. So it won't tell you, was this storm a result of CO2 in the atmosphere increase? But it tells you that the probability is that over time, if you increase the number of these gases in the atmosphere, the amount of them, then the climate will on average get hotter. And that gives you more powerful storms and so on. That's just science, and that's understanding planetary atmospheres. And it's difficult, it's a difficult problem, but we're getting better at it. And so we can say with some confidence, this is what's most likely to happen. That's it. But then there's the politics, which is really, my view, is what do we do about that? And that can be quite controversial, because you're asking people perhaps to change their behaviour. You're saying, well, you shouldn't drive that sort of car, for example, and people don't like that. Or we should invest more in this kind of solar power rather than coal-fired power. And that has impacts politically. So I think that the challenge is to be able to separate out your emotion and questions about how you should live your life from just reality. I mean, science is concerned with measurements and trying to model how nature works, and that's it. And so that's the point about climate change. It would be great to separate the debate about what we do about it from just the measurements and the prediction.
Does it frustrate you?
Well, yeah, because going back to that perspective of our place, we don't know of anywhere else where life exists at all, number one.
No.
Right? We suspect there might be microbes around, possibly subsurface on Mars or on the moons of Jupiter or Saturn, but we don't know. We have no evidence of any other civilizations. And remember, it took almost 4 billion years to go from the origin of life on Earth to a civilization. So that might imply that they're rare. So that might imply that places like this are rare.
Goldilocks.
And then when you talk about, the fact we might wipe ourselves out through some little tiff with some nuclear weapons, or we might mangle our climate such it makes it difficult for us to live, I think it becomes absurd when you think in those terms. Yeah. And so I think that's what science can do. It can't tell you what to vote for or how to build your policy or anything. That's for everybody. That's a democracy. But it can say this is the framework. This is the situation we're in.
Brian, thank you so much. We could talk to you about this for hours.